The final weekend of April has come to an end, and we've had a big development in the metagame. Not only did we have Cherna Dogs win Ravensburger's tournament over in Germany, we also had Jafar Wheel win the biggest event in North America. Also, crazy enough, Emerald Steel won an event, Ruby, Sapphire won an event. All these incredibly different decks finding this success within the new 7.5 metagame. This is week 3 of that. We're going to break down the meta report this weekend, give you a bunch of different decks to look at going into set championships, and kind of discuss some of the ways that we're going to be successful in there as well. So without further ado, let's take a look at the metagame breakdown. So here we are, the week 3 metagame breakdown for 7.5 metagame. Again, that is the post Hiram and Fortisphere metagame. Lots of different decks here being successful. 15 different decks have found their way into a top 16 or better in the events that had a top cut. We had 4 different tournaments over 100 players this weekend, or just under 100 players, that all had the top 16 breakdown. So we added them into it for the top 16 cut. And here you can see that Amber Steel was the most successful deck on the weekend. 21 Amber Steel songs found a way into top cuts. Ruby Sapphire right behind with 18. And then, to probably some surprise here, at least in the meta game breakdown surprise, a deck that we have not seen really ever had a ton of success is coming out in full force numbers. Sapphire Amethyst Midrange, Sapphire Amethyst Control, kind of a similar sequence to the Amethyst Ruby that also had 10 this past weekend. Amethyst Steel Midrange and Emerald Steel Discard, along with Amethyst Amber Aggro Bounce or Mid-Range. They're all kind of really close to the same. Then the next thing we see here, and the next closest different deck, is Amber Steel Aggro. Everything else to this point is a different type of archetype. This is very different from the first set of metagames before the ban of Hiram and Fortisphere. Mostly it was just Ruby Sapphire, and then, of course, 2 versions of Sapphire Steel, 2 versions of Ruby Sapphire, and then you would start to see Emerald Steel and Amethyst Steel kind of, click in. You can see from number 1 to number 9, or number 8, you have different decks, which is very, very interesting. And then to fill up the rest of the list here, we have some Emerald Amethyst Midrange, Emerald Sapphire discards, Amber Emerald songs, Emerald Amber discard, or I'm sorry, Emerald Amethyst discard, and then of course a couple different variations of Amethyst Steel that were all successful this past weekend that were notably different than what we were used to seeing. And then, of course, let's not forget the one lone Sapphire Steel aggro deck. So you can see there, big difference. There's a lot of choice, a lot of variety. We're seeing that Amber Steel songs, with its wide, variety of kind of like matchup bases, being very, very successful. And I think it's a good deck that if you're an Amber Steel songs player for set championships, that's definitely a deck that I would be considering. But, the rest of this list is sticking out. Ruby Sapphire still finding a way to win tournaments. It won a giant tournament. We're going to talk about that deck shortly here. Amethyst Ruby still finding success. Amethyst Steel still finding success. Emerald Steel, in all honesty, is probably not nearly as successful as players thought it would be, but still picked up a big win in a big tournament. Lots to break down, lots of different decks here. We're also going to take a look, just so you guys can see, not something we talk about all the time, but a week 1 to week 3 breakdown. In those early weeks, it was kind of just a little bit of everything. People were figuring some stuff out. And now all of a sudden you can see Amber Steel songs hitting it hard. Ruby Sapphire figuring it out, being successful. Still having Sapphire Amethyst, still having Amethyst Steel and Emerald Steel, all kind of just like in the mix and really working around the choices, along with some fun picks, finding wins. This past weekend, we had a big win in a 97-player tournament by Jafar Wheel. We're going to break down that deck soon. But you can really see that in just a couple of weeks, you're still seeing a large diversity in decks, which is really important. And then on top of that, you're still seeing now a shift from one thing to another. Amber Steel songs was kind of figuring out a few weeks ago, now has the right deck list, finding its way into the most top cuts this past weekend. And while Ruby Sapphire was doomed and gloomed and we're worried about it ever being successful, it has definitely found a way to compete within the metagame as well. And one thing's for certain, Sapphire Steel is definitely still reeling from the bans. When you get 2 cards banned in your archetype, it's kind of, it's not too shocking to me that it's this way, but most of these decks haven't found a way to figure out how to get there. Most importantly to note, all this data is from stores and events around the globe that do not include the Ravensburger event in Ravensburger, Germany. So that is going to be a whole other list of information to deep dive into. That's the 2-game format. It was 400 and some players, but all the information wasn't really released, and there's not a lot to go on except for a couple like more prominent players that were sharing their stories, like Kendall, like DKP, and of course the winning Chernabog deck. So all of these events being covered in this video is really like just stores all over the world. There were 10 different stores of information of 30 or more players. It was 606 total players registered in those 10 tournaments, which is a huge shout out to the players for showing up for their stores. A huge shout out for the stores for taking a risk on events like this. I love it, and I love reporting on them. And we're going to see some of those different decks and events really showcased in these deck lists. So there we have it, the Amber Steel songs. And there were 21 of them to choose from. But all honesty, on this channel, we got to give a little bit of credit to the one, the only B Squared. You can find them every Monday night on the Illuminators podcast. And guys, we went from broadcaster to player to top 16 finisher at the Lucky Llama. Huge shout out to Brandon. And now let's take a look at this cat and dog song list. So here we have it. We have the Lucky Llama top 16 finisher B Squared. And I dubbed this deck on stream the cat and dog songs. You have Bolt, you have Zimba, you have a little bit of everything. And this is kind of showing the proof in the pudding that Amber Steel songs can be very successful in different ways. Bolt Superdog is the 5-cost inkable, 3-strength, 5 willpower, 2 lore with shift 3 and 2 abilities. Mark of Power, whenever you ready this character, gain 1 lore for each other undamaged character you have in play. And the Bolt Stare, which is Exert, Banish Chosen Illusion character. This guy can take out an Iago all by himself, but what he also can do is gain you a bunch of lore. It combos incredibly well with the one and only Zimba, Pride Protector, which is the 5-cost uninkable, 4-strength, 4 willpower, 2 lore, shift 3, and the ability Understand the Balance. At the end of your turn, if this character is exerted, you may ready your other characters. The two together work very, very well, and it's a combo to gain additional lore out of nowhere on your opponent. Of course, we have Sven, the wonderful reindeer, giving the ability to ready Bolt as well. And of course, because of that, we have Zimba, the future king. We have Bolt, the headstrong dog. And then, we need our singers. So we have the wonderful Troubadour, Cinderella, Ballroom Sensation, Ariel. We have all the nice ways to continue and really just pressure the game at every state. This list comes in at a total of 15 songs. There's a lot of conversations around how many songs do these decks need to be successful. Is it as low as 15? Is it high as 20? Where are you comfortable with as a player? If there is, if you're an Amber Steel songs player, I think this is one of the comments that happened a bunch in Twitch chat this weekend. Let me know, what is the number of songs that you are comfortable with playing in your Amber Steel decks? I got to know. For me, I think 15 is fine. Could we be playing a couple more? Maybe a Great World Skirmish Cranial Mine, maybe a Bare Necessities. Sure, we could be, but I don't really hate where B Squared is at in this deck list in Pacific, because when you look at it, it's only 14 on inkables, and I really like that. If we don't need to go and play more on inkables, and we're successful with 15, and we're kind of happy with Ariel Spectacular Singer just being a Singer 5, and if we hit, awesome. I'm really okay with that too. I think that the 2 strength doesn't matter. It's not enough to go and play another card. I like the idea that we can still search and find. Congratulations on the top 16 finish at the Lucky Llama Showdown at Shark Gaming in Arkansas. Now let's take a look at Henrik, the first place finish at Stockholm 128 player tournament with Ruby Sapphire Control. Of course, this is basically the DKP list, but we have some interesting new cards to discuss in the deck. First and foremost, we have the Donald Duck. Focused Flatfoot, the 5-cost inkable, 3-strength, 4 willpower, 2 lore, and the ability Baffling Mystery. When you play this character, you may put the top card of your deck into your inkwell face down and exert it. So the Donald Duck comes in as another way to kind of gain conditional lore. We still have an All Is Found, down to 2 Super Goofs, down to 2 Sisus, and then the 1 Maui's Fish Hook. Maui's Fish Hook is the 3-cost inkable ruby item with 2 abilities. It's Maui time. If you have a character named Maui in play, you may use this item Shapeshift ability for free. Shapeshift is the second ability, which is pay 2 and exert to choose 1. Chosen character gains evasive until the start of your next turn, or chosen character gains +3 strength this turn. So either way, Maui's Fish Hook comes in with the suite of 8 Mauis, 4 hero to all, 4 half sharks, and then of course the last real true addition to this that is a little bit different than what we're used to seeing is Hades Infernal Screamer. Of course, the wonderful 7 cost, uninkable, 3 strength, 6 willpower, 2 lore, and it's there. And the ability is there. A downside to this, when you play this character, you may put chosen opponent character into the Inkwell face down and exert it. So this is a deck that we kind of expected to happen. We really did think that once we got into the nitty gritty and we removed Hiram, that listen, DKP went out. He won a Melbourne with this deck. He came out the opening weekend. He won another event. He's showcasing that we don't need Hiram and Sapphire to be successful. There's other ways. There's alternative ways to draw cards. Maui Shark at the end of the day is an alternative way to draw cards, and that's exactly what this deck is doing. So here it is. Here's proof. If I understand, we like drawing cards. Hiram let us draw like a million cards. I get it. I really do. But I think we need to be okay, and we need to be happy that this is still a way to play the game. It might be the only way to play. We're not really seeing Maurice Workshop lists being successful for Ruby Sapphire for right now. But if that's not necessarily what you need and what you're into, feel comfortable suiting up this deck. Din put a ton of work into it, and it's proven a lot of success. 128 player tournament for the win. I believe DKP actually finished in top 16 at the Ravensburger tournament as well. A lot of success for this deck on this weekend. It was also the second most consistent deck in top cuts this past weekend. So Ruby Sapphire far from gone. Sapphire Amethyst. This was played by Cody at the Lucky Llama this past weekend. Cody was great. If you were watching the stream this past weekend with me and JDZ, Cody was the Baymax playmat that was on stream the entire day. We also got to see him play in top 8 and in top 4. Those videos will be up on the Forbidden Mountain later on in this week. So if you're looking to catch those gameplay, we're going to have it for you. But if we take a look at Cody's list here, you can see it's a couple interesting choices here. We're playing Gistan, the intellectual powerhouse. The 6 cost, uninkable, 4 strength, 4 willpower, 3 lore. Of course, it has shift 4, not that we're using that today, but it also has the ability of developed brain. When you play this character, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You may put 1 of the cards in your hand and then put the rest of your bottom in any order. This is the biggest addition to this deck. I think everything else is a card we've been seeing a ton of. This deck really, and I do mean this, really made Bell, the accomplished mystic, look insane. There was a couple games on camera where he was just bouncing Bell, moving damage around, even just for the characters. On the opponent's side of the field, he really did have a true effort and could almost bring home a top 2 finish. He lost in the top 4 against Zan Syed, playing the Amethyst Steel Jafar deck that we're going to be talking about soon. This deck is a deck that I had said from day one, if we did have Hiram, how are we going to draw cards? How are we going to be successful? How are we going to best utilize ramp? And this deck is here to have it. We still have Sally Azrite C. We still have Tipo. We get to play Bell and Popsicle. And then we just get to play the Amethyst package to draw cards. We have the genies. We have friends on the other side. We have finders, keepers. It just kind of have a trick of voltage to consistently have characters in our hand at all times. I really think this deck is very well positioned in the metagame. It's definitely a deck that a lot of players have been playing with. It was the 3rd most successful deck on the weekend. It was one of the more successful decks and most played decks at the Lucky Llama event that we're going to look at shortly as well. So all in all, if you are a Sapphire Amethyst enjoyer, this is definitely a good list to pick up and try at your set championships coming up. Speaking of set championships, what better way to get into them? If you're looking for that little bit extra, we have the Ultimate Guide and the Amethyst Steel Doc Guide over on Metafy. It's the best way to support the Forbidden Mountain. It's the best way to get more information out of us about the meta report. We're going to be having deck highlights and spotlights all week long in the free post on Metafy. So even if you just want to go check out our Metafy, make sure you follow so you can get along and see those posts about those decks and hear from different members of the TFM community. That's going to be a great way to do it. We're also doing a breakdown for our TFM supporters. They were able to, fill out a deck list, and we're going to go in and kind of break it down for them, give them a little bit pointers on how they can be successful in the early weeks of set championships. So definitely, if you're looking a way to support us, Metafy is the best way. If you're looking a way to get a little bit better at the game, get a little bit more information, go check out those guides. Ruby Amethyst was played by Jeff. It was a top 16 finish at the Lucky Llama 97 player. I have the wrong image on screen. I didn't update it. Very sorry, but this was a top 16 deck. But I really want to give a shout out to Jeff. He also played in the Friday night event and had some success. Came back, played in the Lucky Llama 97 player tournament, found a top 16. And I really liked this deck. I really liked Jeff's vibe. He played very, very well on camera. And I really enjoyed just kind of the choices that were made here. We can have the 2 libraries, the 2 Queen's Castles, the 1 of Dragonfire. We have the choice between Medusa and Lady Tremaine, kind of just showcasing that Ruby Amethyst is once again that toolbox deck that so many people know and love. So if you're looking to get, kind of just under and into the game, you can find ways to build this deck. There is no Iagos in this list. There is no Peter Pan Shadowfinder in this list. We're playing the more traditional stock list and finding success with it in big tournaments. So there is lots of different options out there. Don't just think like there's only one deck on the internet. Ruby Amethyst is not a one-trick pony. There is choices. There's enough of a card pool to really go off of. And I really just wanted to get this list in there and showcase that there are so many different ways to build this deck and find success. Amethyst Steel Midrange. This is a top 4 deck played by Steven. This is also the Hunter Burton Memorial Champion. So Steven finding success all over the area. He drew, I believe he did fly in from the Austin area and not drive, but this is another wonderful player from the Arkansas area, finding a way to get to the tournament and play all the way to a top 4 finish. I believe he lost to Mo in the top 4, which is another deck that we're going to be looking at shortly. But this deck came to play, came ready. He's an Amethyst Steel enjoyer. He also won the Hunter Burton Memorial with a version of this deck as well. But you can see here, we are gone. Doc is no more, and we are back on Rabbits. Rabbits, it is rabbit season right now. You're playing a lot of Amethyst mirrors. We got to draw cards. We got to stay in the game. And you went from Doc and things like that all the way back to Rabbits and Friends on the other side. And we're just enjoying the steel cards. Pete is a wonderful character. Strength of a Raging Fire is great. Along Came Zeus in a meta filled with sharks is kind of where you wanted to be. So I really like this list and kind of how we're evolving as a player through the season and saying, hey, I understand right now Doc might not be the best position for my metagame, and I have the choice to go and play Rabbits. What I think that this is crucial moving forward is there is a world where in the metagame that you are kind of predicting for your set championships, you want choices. If it's an Amethyst control heavy metagame, maybe you want to match them. Maybe you want to draw as many cards as them. So therefore, we got to go back and play 4 Snakes. We got to play 4 Foxes, and we have to play cards like Rabbit. We have to give ourselves the choice to play cards like Along Came Zeus. Just a nice choice to say if you want to kind of open your feeling in the game and kind of like broaden your skill set, knowing that this is an option is great. Shout out to Steve, picking up a top 4 finish. Awesome chat with you at the venue. Now let's take a look at the 128 player list from Randolph, won by Sailor of Team Maelstrom. Sailor picks up the big win this past weekend with Emerald Steel Discard. This is a pretty straightforward list. I don't think there's anything too crazy to really note. The 1 of Pluto for the Bodyguard, I believe, is really just there as a kind of like when in doubt, I want to be able to protect my characters a little bit more. I think on average, it's not necessarily part of the plan, which is why it's only a 1-off. But hey, if I'm able to actually stick my Ursula Deceiver of All and keep her in play, and then follow up with a Pluto Bodyguard, getting a double sing with Ursula and then following up with a Bodyguard is pretty impressive. Really going to feel good whenever we can do that. It also feels pretty good if there's ever a turn that we want to be able to turn a Prince John sideways. We have to sing with him or gain some lore and things like that. Pluto is a great way to protect it as well. I do very much enjoy the morph in this list. Having a way or additional ways to shift Diablo is phenomenal. Having additional ways to shift Pete Space Pirate is phenomenal. And of course, putting a turn 3 beast is an option as well. I've seen many different lists of this recently that are even playing other Floodborn options, such as Robin Hood, such as Tinkerbell and things like that. So Morph, I think, does become a bit of a more mainstay in the Emerald Steel list. It's a card I do think presents a very big threat early on in a particular game when your opponent does not know what could come from it. Having the 3 hidden coves to protect your Diablo is pretty key for this deck as well. All in all, I'm sure Sailor is going to cover this on their video coming up. Definitely go check out Team Maelstrom on YouTube. They have a lot of great information there as well. If you like information here, I'm sure you're going to like information there. So definitely go check out and listen in on the new Team Maelstrom podcast on their new YouTube channel. Give them a check out. And Sailor is a world-class player, guys. He is top. He is one of the qualified players for Worlds. Hopefully, we're going to see a lot more of Sailor in the near future. Amber Amethyst Midrange picks up a second place finish at the Randolph tournament. So this is the list that lost to Sailor in the finals. And man, is this a spicy one. There are no snakes in this. There's only 2 foxes. We don't even care about goats. That's right. This list is all sorts of different for Amethyst, but I love it. It is embodying the Peter Pan Shadowfinder game. We have Peter Pan, Iago, Genie, Elsa, really good Amethyst, evasive characters to boot, along with one of my favorite cards in the game, Madam Mim, Tiny Adversary. This character is so sweet. The 2 cost, inkable, 0/3, 1 lore with Challenger 1 and the ability to give all of your other characters Challenger 1 really makes them for very interesting plays. This also is really the best Rapunzel deck in the game. If you really look at the willpower of the cards in this deck and see it, it's wonderful. If you're wondering, what does Lilo do? Hey, you know what's great about bringing back a Lilo? When you can put it in the library. When Lilo goes in and starts reading some of Belle's books, and now your opponent's like, oh, I can answer that Lilo, but man, it's going to draw a card now too. It's a pretty sweet recurring 3-cost ability that says either you answer my library or you leave my Lilo in play, or you answer my Lilo and at least I get to draw a card. I really love that because the best of both worlds is they can't answer either, and then you get to also quest for 2. I think it's a really threatening deck. It's also a great World's Greatest Criminal Mind deck, kind of just understanding its weakness and saying, hey, I can very easily just pay 3 and remove one of those problematic characters like Shark, like Tamatoa, just a couple, Mauis, of course. Any of those things that you want to get off the play and get off the battlefield quickly, World's Greatest Criminal Mind is going to do that for you. I think this deck is so sweet. If you're looking to play something very different for set championships, I 100% suggest putting this deck in some sleeves, bring it to a set championship, and enjoy a very different kind of play and game style in general. Huge shout out to Xavier again on the second place finish. Now let's take a look at the Lucky Llama breakdown. As you can see, this was a pretty diverse metagame. Ruby Amethyst was the #1 play deck. Amber Steel was the #2 play deck. And then there you have it, guys. Amethyst Sapphire had 13 registrations of 97 players. That's insane. 12 Ruby Sapphires, 11 Amethyst Steels, and then you can see the rest of the list. I really just wanted to showcase this as kind of an overall breakdown, and really it gives me a real opportunity to shout out Shark Gaming, shout out Lucky Llama. We had an absolute blast, JDZ and I. If you're looking for it, it's on his Twitch. We're also going to have the gameplay from this on this channel coming up later in the week. But this was a great event. Really good opportunity to kind of showcase what a 97-player tournament looked like in Fort Smith, Arkansas this past weekend, and just say, hey, listen, the winner of this event, yeah, they're coming up. We got Amethyst Steel Jafar, and the runner-up, Amethyst Emerald Midrange, not the discard. We got Mo Shamlin in the house. Let's take a look at those decks now. So there you have it, Emerald, Amethyst, Bounce. We got 4 Clarabelle, Light on Her Hooves. I love this card so much. Clarabelle is the 7-cost inkable 5 strength, 6 willpower, 2 lore with shift 5 and the ability keep in step. At the end of your turn, if chosen opponent has more cards in their hand than you may draw cards until you have the same number. This is a wonderful ability. It's a wonderful draw mechanic. It's one of the cards that when Hiram goes away, you start looking at, hey, what are the best ways to draw cards? And some games, guys, Clarabelle lets you draw 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. There was a game where I watched Mo draw 5 cards. It was crazy. It was just a wonderful way to refill their hand, get back up there, and keep threatening the game. And this can happen so very early in the game as well. The idea that we also have Mother's Knows Best, you can kind of shift in Clarabelle, Mother's Knows Best, a character back to their hand, so you get the immediate use out of the 5-cost character, and that card is not only no longer on the field, but it's one more card in your opponent's hand to draw a card back. The other thing this deck does very, very well, Go-Go Tamago. That is right. The Go-Go comes in, gain multiple lore multiple times in the game. There was a line in the game that I was watching Mo play where he could have gained 12 lore off just Go-Go. He wasn't able to get that done, but it was definitely there, and it had potential to do so. Deck was very fun to watch. It's also one of the only decks in the format that might have an answer in their deck to items because of Clarabelle Clumsy Guest and the kicker ability to banish an item. So really, this deck, very fun, very straightforward. Obviously, Mo is a bit of a hometown hero to the Fort Smith, Arkansas area, and he is very much known for his Emerald Amethyst enthusiasm, and he brought it, guys. 97-player event. He finished in second. He did get 2-0'd in the finals by Zan, but if you're going to get 2-0'd in the finals by anyone, I guess Zan Syed is one player you're going to be okay with. It was also a potential preliminary match to where they could see each other playing at Worlds. Huge shout out to Mo. Awesome chats all weekend, and an even bigger shout out to Mandy, who did the interviews this past weekend. You were awesome. Can't wait to see you guys again. And again, congrats on a top 16 finish, or I'm sorry, a second place finish at the 97-player tournament this past weekend. And then, of course, the winner, Amethyst Steel Jafar Wheel. Zan Syed brought it, and man, did he bring the spice. I said this on stream. I tweeted it out. He called his shot. He literally said, hey, I am going to Fort Smith, Arkansas to win. Who is going to stop me? And the answer was no one. Picked up the win with Jafar striking Illusionist, with Robin Hood, Genies, Giant Cobras, Pete. He had it all. But guys, you know what he really had that a card that no one has talked about in literally forever, the Lamp. The Lamp is a 2-cost uninkable Amethyst item with the ability Good or Evil. Banish this item. If you have a character named Jafar in play, draw 2 cards. If you have a character named Genie in play, return chosen character with cost 4 or less to their player's hand. So not only can you bounce your own character back to your hand and draw 2 cards, what you can also do is bounce your opponent's characters to their hand and draw 2 cards. There were several times in this tournament where Zan's turn 2 play was the Lamp, and it was just so it's set up for later on in the game. If he was going to play a Jafar on turn 3, great. Then he could just draw 2 cards. If he was going to play a Genie on turn 4, great. He can play a Genie and then bounce an opposing character back to its hand. Very often I saw him bounce other Genies, bounce Ursula Deceiver of All. This card's tempo was insane. The best times I did see it was a turn 2 Jafar into a turn 3 Pete into a turn 4 Genie, which protected everything and then was able to draw 2 cards immediately and bounce a character back to an opponent's hand that might have been threatening. The other things I saw happen very often where you would put it on the play in 2 and it would just sit there for a while. And it's just because no one is playing answers to items in the game right now. Like if you really look at the decks, no one's playing Benjas, no one's playing, any of the other item removals that we had seen before, hideaways and stuff like that. They're all gone. So because of that, it really enables you to just put this card into play and eventually draw 2 cards, or eventually bounce a character, or eventually do both. It's notable that you might be able to pick up your own Pete with this card. If you have a Pete on 3, you can play a Genie on 4, banish your Lamp, pick your Pete back up. Maybe you need that card for later on to kind of set up your combo. Turn 5 or turn 6 is a potential combo with this deck to where you can go Jafar Pete or Jafar Pete with 3/3. So it gives you that option to pick your Pete up and get even more value of it. If you want to stop a play early, like a Ursula Deceiver or like an Ariel Spectacular Singer and something like that, you can play Pete on 3 and say, nope, you can't do that. But then you can pick it back up later. This deck doesn't have snakes, doesn't have foxes. All in all, this deck is actually insane. And I said it, huge shout out to Zan. The idea that he was able to go in to an event and say, hey, I'm going to win this event unless someone stops me. And then that deck that he brings is Amethyst Steel Jafar Wheel, which is basically forever been a fringe tier 2.5 deck. And he said, no, this might be the best deck in the format, and I'm going to prove it to you. And then he does. I mean, honestly, the chats all weekend with Zan were phenomenal. Hearing his vision for the deck, hearing why he was playing it, why he's been going to all these tournaments, it was just incredible. Huge shout out to Zan. Thanks for the great conversations, and honestly, massive amounts of respect. Driving out of your way, he flew to Kansas City, drove 5 hours to play in this 3K, support Sharp Gaming, and then on top of that, he won the whole thing with the Jafar wheel deck. Absolutely insane. Honestly, hats off to you, and a huge, once again, just congratulations on just calling your shot. Way to be Babe Ruth, honestly. Last but not least, set champs are this weekend. If you're excited, let me know how many set champs you're going to this weekend. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you're excited, what you're playing, what you're bringing. Does this meta report help you make those decisions? Let me know all that in the comments. I'm excited to be playing in set champs this weekend. I am a huge Hero fan. I got to get myself 4 of these. I got to get myself one of those playmats. We're going to be out there. We're going to be grinding as much as possible in the month of May. Let me know for sure. And of course, if you're looking for more help, you're looking for more aid, go and follow us on Metafy. We're going to be updating every tournament report known to man in that Arceus guide. So definitely looking forward to. Thank you guys so much for watching today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit on that one now. Check it out. You never know how much more information you're going to gain. Thank you, and we will catch you in the next one.